No.
No, indeed. Unfortunately, it's not a good movie. I did not like this movie. I do not like Green Eggs and Ham. But I will be honest. There was a lot that I did like about it, but it didn't really make me convince me that this was a good movie. It is undeniably somewhat entertaining. But I'm at two minds with this. On one hand, there's a lot here that I really do enjoy. Don't get me wrong. But there is also a lot here that I don't particularly enjoy. Now, before I hit you with the knuckle sandwich with the bat, I want to make this very clear. I'm not going to hate bash this movie. I'm not going to be like all the other critics that are, you know, hating this movie because, Rachel Zegler's in it, Gal Gadot's in it. I'm not going to be like all the others, but I am going to be, voicing my overall thoughts on the movie. I'm not going to be overly negative with this because, like I said, there is a significant chunk that I do like about this. So let me hit you with the good before I hit you with the knuckle sandwich with the bad. The good. And this is going to be a controversial opinion to most people, but honestly, I know a lot of people, myself included, do not like Rachel Zegler, especially with the controversy leading up to the movie. Now, with that in mind, after seeing this film, I'm going to be honest. Rachel Zegler does a really good job in this movie. I do feel like she has a great singing voice. In fact, I'd even argue, same with that, Haley Bailey's situation with The Little Mermaid. Even though, you know, different persons, skin color and people are, being, you know, I'm just gonna blatantly say it, they're being racist here and being misogynistic to these actresses that are, in my opinion, both times putting in good work. They are a good, candidate for playing this character. I feel like Rachel Zegler does a really good job here. She has a fantastic singing voice. She does a fairly decent job acting. So really, she's a pretty decent actress that I really feel like, amplifies the movie for me. Now, I'm going to also bring up a little bit more of the good. I do like some of the new songs, even though I do feel like, it needed more of the original songs because they only include three. Now, this is going to be more my criticisms here, but, you know, the songs they do sing in this, they aren't overly bad. The Another thing that I really like about this, I do like they give more of a character development with Dopey. Like, specifically, even though he's all CGI, unfortunately, I do like the fact that they do use a, type of, since he stays mostly silent throughout the movie, and yes, he does speak, unsurprisingly, he does speak. I was expecting it. I'm pretty sure half of you were expecting it. I just didn't think they were going to pull through with it, and they did. And he does speak, but during his silent moments and during the moments where he's like, you know, he relies on his emotions to like convey how he's feeling, it works really well. I feel like he gets the more emotion out of all the other dwarves in this movie, which is kind of odd to say, but yeah, I really do appreciate the fact they bring, more character to development to Dopey. I feel like visually, even though at times this movie can look a little bit wonky, especially with the weird CGI, particularly with the dwarves, I'll get more into that with my negatives, but this movie visually doesn't look too bad. Costumes aside, at times it can look a little Disney Channel-esque, but I feel like visually the movie doesn't look too bad. There are some moments where it does look a little bit goofy and wonky, like I said, but it doesn't look bad overall. I'm trying to think of all the other positives I can think of, but they are really strong positives because overall, yeah, this movie's not good, unfortunately. Now, I don't want to be overly negative with this because, all the other actors do a good job. I don't feel like anyone's half assing it. But just to start off with my negatives, I'm sorry, Gal Gadot. There are some particularly moments. There are some particular moments in this movie where I'm not saying I can do a better job at acting because personally I've never acted before. But hey, hit me up, Hollywood. I'm always open. But in this particular movie, I just feel like there are some moments where I'm just like, I don't know if it's a line reading or what, but I can't. I'm not sure if she can even decide if she's trying to go hokey, goofy acting or trying to stay serious. But it's just not a good mix overall. And she's given a song that where at times it tries to be goofy and hokey and trying to ham it up, but it just doesn't work. And it's not even like that catchy of a song, unfortunately. Like, out of all the new songs, this one's just really lackluster. In fact, some of the new songs are kind of lackluster, but this one in particular with Gal Gadot is just really kind of negative for me. And that's another thing that I really kind of have to criticize this movie is that this movie with the songs, particularly with the new ones, it's like they sing, but then they stop midway through, and then you think the song's done, but then they'll continue singing the song, and then that's when they'll end it. So it's just very abrupt and very weird. Also, so you know that very controversial image that Disney kind of popped up with the seven bandits, I guess you can say. They do appear in this, and they're not given a whole lot to do. So that's where I feel like this movie had so many rewrites, so many script ideas, and I feel like this is just another one of those things that just never left another writer's vision, and it was just ultimately left into the movie. It feels very out of nowhere. I get the intention of what they're going for, but it's just very out of place at times, and it just feels very abrupt to introduce like seven new characters. I barely remember any of them or any of their names. No offense to the actors that play them. I feel like they all play them fine, but I just barely remember them. Also, a small thing I want to mention before I go in any further with this review, but also the original songs that they keep in here, like the silly song that, the Seven Dwarfs do in the original movie with Snow White. Yeah, that's in here for like maybe 15 seconds max. The Hi Ho song, obviously an iconic one. You have to include that. And yeah, I mean, again, weird editing decisions here because where they started off like with the dwarves going to work and kind of catches you off guard because you expect it to happen as they're leaving work. But hey, I'm open to different interpretations. And then on top of that, they then shove in the We Dig song that they also sing like when they're actually, digging. But again, this happens like for like maybe 15-20 seconds before going back to Hi Ho and then ending their day. So it just feels very hastily rushed. But even just in general, this movie just feels very hastily rushed, despite this being very, like, it got delayed several times, and this movie just feels very, very rushed. Like, with the new songs, there's some weird editing decisions. Like, I don't know how else to explain it, but like with the poison apple, for example, in the original it felt like a big, thing. But in this one, it is barely, like, it is a nothing burger of a poison apple. Like, it just barely, like, it is just a weird type of moment. Like, Gal Gadot turning into the old hag, I'm gonna be honest, I was looking forward to because I thought it'd be decently creepy. And it doesn't go all the way creepy like I was expecting. And you know how the queen does all that cool, like, making the potion type of stuff? None of that in here. She literally just walks into a room, grabs these poison, like, these little vials, and then just squirts it in there, and then just, drinks it, and then that's it. And then she's just like, okay, now I'm gonna... And it's just, the apple that the huntsman put in the, box for her. So she literally just takes out this apple and goes like, okay, now I'm going to create this poison apple, which she does very quickly in my opinion. I swear it feels like under 2 minutes. and then she's already off to go kill Snow White. And it is a nothing burger. In fact, even when Snow White dies, now I get it, the original wasn't that very long either, so it didn't really happen. It didn't really, do anything else. But in this one, you expect it to kind of go on for like a little bit longer, or at least kind of give the dwarfs time to like mourn Snow White. Yeah, there's probably like maybe 2 scenes before Snow White's just back up and running, and it's just like, wow, okay, we're right, rushing through the climax. And on top of that, the climax even kind of borrows from the Aladdin remake, where Snow White ultimately kind of convinces the guards. Spoiler alert, I'm just going to use spoilers here. Sorry. Where she convinces the guards, like just basically, talks about like their lives to get them back on her side, just so she can show them that, yeah, I know who you are. I know what your character is. This isn't you. Come back to the good side. And they're just like, okay, cool. Because clearly show that you care, and, not this obvious evil queen right here. And it's such an I'm Spartacus moment, and it happens also in the Aladdin remake as well, so I couldn't help but go like, wow. And then from that moment on, then the movie just really just kind of rushes right then and there to the ending. It's very weird. And yeah, like, it's very strange. Also, fair warning to the people that are sensitive to this topic, but yeah, they do include the non-consensual kissing in this movie because, it's from the original and part of the story. Yeah, these people actually exist. They actually tried to do that. I don't know how, but they did. Or they tried to. But regardless, whatever your opinion may be, and whatever you think of my opinion, and just so I can wrap this up in a really somewhat neat bow near the end here, my biggest issue with this movie is not the fact that it's a remake, and controversy aside, because I don't want to go into movies. I don't go into movies expecting an Oscar-winning masterpiece every single time. I just go to movies to get entertained, man. Just to spend a couple hours in a dark theater and just have a fun experience. And that's what I was looking for. And yes, I was entertained, but it's just not a good movie. And my biggest issue with the fact that why this isn't a good movie is the fact that why would you watch this over the original? Like, it's hard to say whether or not I would go back to. Actually, I would go back to this. I find this movie cute enough and, entertaining enough that I would go back to it in all honesty. I didn't hate it. I just didn't love it. It's just not good, in my opinion. I know my mom that I took to go see because, going through a breakup and everything. I took my mom to go see this, and she really adored it. She loved it. I'm not at that level yet where I would say that I loved it. I would even say that I liked it. I enjoyed it. I found it entertaining. But it will maybe take me a couple years down the road, maybe a year, who knows, because I find there are cute and charming moments in this movie, and there is a lot of positives here. But with the biggest, negatives in here, it does ultimately kind of, tank the film for me. But not to the point where I find this, unbearable to watch. Now, compared this to the Pinocchio remake, however, well, we don't need to go into that. That one's unforgettable. Unforgivable. That's just a sin against nature. That is asinine. That is just an insult to Disney's grave. But you can watch that video on your own time. Anyway, that's about it. Take it easy, everyone. See ya.